To the UN soldiers in Rwanda, it seemed that driving around the country was becoming a most dangerous occupation.
We'd come down a hill. We're close to an area that we thought was the site of this massacre, and saw our first two human beings in about 20 minutes of driving. And we pulled up to stop, to ask for directions, and just as we pulled up, the whole world opened up on us. Roughly a platoon-size hit. What saved us was the fact that we pulled the vehicle in under a garden wall, and between us and the people shooting was a low garden wall and a house. So we sat there watching the bullets stitch off the top of this wall just over our heads. Now, there I was, fairly new to Africa, in a state of panic anyway, before we got hit. So I sat in my seat, very excited by all this, and I kept hitting my driver, Captain Appia was his name. Kept hitting him, saying, back up, back up. Fortunately, he ignored me. And I thought maybe he'd gone catatonic on me, but no. He waited until I guess the first magazines had emptied. Then he backed up and nearly broke my neck in the process. He just floored it in reverse, right up a hill, an exposed hill, and kept going until we were over the lip of it.
In addition to their specific tasks, many of the Canadian troops found themselves assigned to the gruesome job of locating massacre sites and mass graves for the United Nations.
We went into a school, actually. That's where there was, they had all the children lined up. And I guess their schools were like different grades. And they had all the children lined up. And it looked like they played a game with the children. Like they chopped their heads off. And then they'd sign their names, like it was like a game. No, I'm okay. No, I'm okay. I gotta get this out. And I think, like, you know, how can people do this to people? Like, you know, I wasn't accustomed to this. Like, you know, I've done my sentry duties. I've done out in the field, and I don't know.
One day, after spending 7 hours looking for a specific mass grave, Corporal Kazavoy left the officer he was with for a minute or two while he went to relieve himself.
So I step over a bump to get some privacy, and my foot sinks straight down. So I hear a lot of snapping like twigs and all that. And then all I could think about at the time was, God, I gotta clean the damn boots up again. So I looked down to pull my foot out, and I found that I was in the chest cavity of a body. So instead of doing the normal thing, just taking one step backwards to get out of there, I kind of leaped backwards, tripped, and rolled into the mass grave. I kind of had a freak out episode where you leap and get the hell out of there as soon as you can. So I scrambled out of there first chance to get, and I'm standing at the top, and I start yelling for the sir to come on over. I think I found what we need.
They went to churches they went there for comfort, because, you know, you expect the church, you know, you're always brought up the church is going to protect you and, you know, go there for asylum and that. And that's where a lot of the slaughters were done. You know, we went to church and they were just riddled with bullets. Mothers clutching their babies, bodies half decomposed, and that was my biggest thing, you know. I want to get home and make sure my kids are okay. That was my biggest effect.
My car kept getting filled up with people who were cut off and being stoned on the road as they tried to transit villages. And I ended up near the end of the afternoon alone in this vehicle, with the vehicle already full of women and children that had been hit by incoming bricks and sticks and so on. When the head man of the group pointed the route had to go off the main road and uphill on a dirt road through a little village, my heart sank. It smelled like an ambush from half a kilometer away. And sure enough, when we got into this village, the first thing that started was the children went berserk. The village children came in running among the stragglers and hit everything that was standing up. The crowd grew closer and closer around me and started jumping on my vehicle as a way of getting away from the kids. When the village elders started to take a hand, throwing bricks and using bigger clubs, I pulled a couple of babies in off their mothers' backs to try and get them away from the bricks and to leave their mothers some sort of freedom of action. And it got worse and worse and worse, and I could see people going down in my rearview mirror, being clubbed, killed. And all of a sudden it stopped. 3 men had stepped out of the village, 3 village elders, I guess they were, with bigger clubs than everyone else, and they pushed everyone back and said, "Stop, this is not right." And there I was, wearing a blue beret, supposedly as a member of a world body with credibility and force and power and interest from the nation's people. All the best thinking in the world went into construction of the UN. And it didn't mean a damn thing at that time and place. The next day, I got up with the intention of going back down to the trouble area and found I just couldn't move. Just couldn't get myself out the door. And I realized then that I'd had it. I just could not go on.
It's nothing what I expected. I figured that, I'd do my job, it's my job as a medic to come back and I'd just carry on. But you couldn't carry on. It affected my wife, it affected me, my family. It was really hard. And there was no support there.
It's said that every soldier lives a different war. Certainly, they each react differently to the stress and the trauma of surviving conflict. Simply talking about what they were seeing, doing, and living through in Rwanda was an effective way for many to deal with the mental strain.
But if you talk about it, you just share the wealth, more or less, and you get it out of your system, and you feel a lot better. You feel like that load's taken off your chest. And talking does help, big time. And I'd find myself sitting on my bed after working all day, sitting on my bed talking to the other soldiers and just more or less probing them. And at first, some of them wouldn't open up and talk. But after they listened to our conversation, they got more into it and more into it to where all of a sudden now they wanted to put their 5 cents in on what they saw. And it seemed to relieve them after a while. And it got them through that day anyway.
It was encouraged every team after they finished their shifts. The team leader, either a nurse or the senior med-A on the team, sat down with their personnel for 20 minutes before the people were released, had them talk about what they saw, what they felt, what they thought they didn't do right or they could have done better, and just to try to get this out of the way so that it could be filed away.
Not everyone had such good support. Many were left feeling alone. For them, asking for help meant being labeled as weak or cowardly, a label that could eat away at a promising military career. So they bottled up the sights, the sounds, the smells, and the pain, and locked them away. But the horror never really disappears, and months or years later, the memories bubble to the surface. Some try to cope with the trauma of their experiences by themselves. Others go for counseling. Either way, there's no guarantee of relief.
That's the worst thing, I think, of being a Canadian soldier, is that weakness is frowned upon. So the easiest thing to do is take everything, push it to the side, and pretend it was a movie. And it isn't until you get hit by smells. The smells are the worst. That'll trigger a memory. And then it's like a film starting up in your head. And either you can let it run through or you can push it back into that spot. There are foods I can't eat anymore. Grilled chicken. Can't eat it. Looks like a dead body. There are vehicles that I see, like rusted vehicles. Can't go near them. Children have a hell of a time looking at little kids, especially newborns, because they were a plaything for the Hutus. They really like killing kids.